Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Tanner Machado, and once again, we're here in the podcast room with the Mexican American Studies Institute at Texas A&M University-Kingsville, and we're here to record another session for our MSPEAL program. The MSPEAL program is funded by the United States Department of Agriculture, particularly their Multicultural Scholars Program, and this funding is allowing us to help the education of students that are wanting to become veterinarians. And today I'm here with also one of my colleagues, Dr. Randy Stanko, who's a mentor in the MSPEAL program.
Good morning, gents.
Excellent. And also now we have the star of the show, and the star of the show is Seth Hubert. Now, Seth is an alumni of TAMUK, of Texas A&M Kingsville, and he's currently pursuing his DVM up in College Station. So before we get started, Seth, I do want to thank you for taking the time and giving back to the students here at Kingsville. It is greatly appreciated, and we're all here to learn stuff because neither one of us actually have been in vet school. You know, we aspired for that at one time, but we chose a different path. So could you give us a little brief background about yourself?
Absolutely. Well, thank y'all for having me on here. This is great what y'all are doing. I am a third-year vet student at Texas A&M, just like y'all said. I grew up in a little town south of here. It's called Rivera. I did my undergrad here, graduated May of 2019, I believe. Then I started vet school in August of 2021. And so I finished up 2 years there already, about to start my third year, ready to get it over with. So it's been an experience, I'll say that.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we asked students to submit questions if they had the opportunity to ask one question to a current vet student to get your perspective, their perspective, what they would have. And we came up with they gave us basically a 3-page list. And so we can kind of start off with some of these questions and we'll just go where it flows with that. And so one of the questions they asked was, and you can take this question a couple different ways. So roll with it with how you want to do it. Are there courses you wish you would have taken in undergrad that you did not?
Yes, there is. I actually talked to Dr. Stanko about this past summer, that I wish I would have taken his summer AI course, because I think that it'll help you in anatomy and it'll help you in physiology the most. And you get hands-on experience. We don't get so much of that the first 2 years, but third year, fourth year, that's where we'll get more hands-on experience. I also took his fall repro course, and that helped me out a lot, especially in A&P. And so I think those two courses, in my opinion, helped me out, and I was able to pull on knowledge that Dr. Stanko was able to teach us back in undergrad, and those really benefited me.
Because, we have all vet schools, there's the prereqs, right? And so reproduction was part of the prereqs.
Yes, sir.
And so part of this question is, what would you take maybe that would help you prepare other things? That's one way we can view it, and you saying that the AI course was one way of it, and that's excellent to hear about. So,
what about any wildlife classes?
Wildlife classes, I don't think I took any of those. I took a meats class with Dr. Machado. I didn't take any wildlife courses, though, so I don't know if that would be beneficial or not. I know we have a few electives, wildlife electives, but I'm not too sure.
Now that you're a third-year student, do we need to offer something that you think would have helped you your first 2 years? Like there's not a class currently at TAMUK. What could we develop to help you in vet school?
So the biggest thing I saw from people that didn't go to A&M and people that did go to A&M is whenever, especially in anatomy, whenever we were doing cadaver dogs, they were a step above us. And it's because during undergrad, this wasn't their first cadaver in vet school, so they've already had one, maybe two, so it's all kind of familiar to them. And being able to do some cadaver or something like that in anatomy in undergrad, I think would help. I know it's not easy trying to set up the lab, trying to set up the cadavers, get all that kind of laid out, and it costs a lot of money. But I think that would probably be the most beneficial because, it feels like you're so far behind when you're grouped up with A&M, like biomedical sciences majors, and they just kind of start rattling stuff off, and you're looking at a dog that has all these, blood vessels, nerves, and all this stuff, and they're just able to pinpoint certain things, which it helps you, but it makes you kind of feel like, you should have been doing something different in undergrad. But again, I think it's a resources thing, and it's tough to be able to do that.
So with running with this kind of get a grasp about maybe how we can improve things. You know, when we're harvesting animals, so what kind of part of the anatomy should we be doing more with our internal organs anatomy? Is it we're talking about veins or everything in general?
Right. No, I think that'd be beneficial. I mean, one, y'all just butchered, or just being able to see the organs, how they're laid out, identify them in person, because that's going to be half your anatomy course in vet school is practical. And you go in there and you either know it or you don't. You have a 2-page sheet of paper with 50 blanks on it, and you got to be able to write it down. You got to spell it right. You got to make sure that you put whatever superficial, digital, flex, or tendon, and it gets nitpicky. There's a reason why they do it, and I think it'd be beneficial if they were somehow exposed to it in person, or being able to like put their hands on it and try to, you know, actually visually see it, if that makes sense. But what y'all got here is, I mean, it's good, and it helped me. Like I said, and talked to Dr. Stanko before. Y'all do a good job here.
No, we appreciate that. That's what we strive for, at least, right? Now, you know, kind of in the same lines of preparing and stuff like that, and you mentioned about you either know it or you don't know it, right? One of the questions was, is having a 4.0 in undergrad as important as everyone says it is?
Well, I'll be the first one to admit I'm no scholar, so let's get that out of the way. I didn't graduate summa cum laude or whatever that, and hats off to the people that do that. That's impressive. But I think I tried to look it up last night. I want to say my GPA was around a 3.4, 3.45, somewhere in there, nothing to write home about. So it's definitely attainable, but the thing is, grades are important. It's the first thing they look at. And you see this discrepancy in vet school where there's 80 to 85% women in vet school, but whenever they first apply, it's pretty much 50-50 women, men. But whenever it seems as after they separate grades, who's qualified, who isn't, that's whenever it gets the big shift, because, I think women tend to make their grades a little bit better, and, we kind of slack off a little more, which we could do some work in that area, at least for myself. I don't want to speak for everyone, but
my major advisor used to say that basically the TV shows, it's always the smart women and the dumb guys that are making the jokes, and it's a cultural thing.
Right.
So it's interesting. So, Stako, do you view anything about the GPA? I always say that it's one of the ways of just, it's the first step, it's the hurdle to show that you're wanting to have it. It's part of the application process. And to increase your odds of getting accepted, the higher the GPA increases your odds just a little bit.
Well, if you get a 3.5 or 3.4 or 3.3 in college, in my opinion, that tells me you've got a work ethic and a study ethic. And so you're not sloughing off college, and you got some brains to you, and you got a work ethic.
Excellent. Well, we can roll on to a couple of other questions that they had. Right?
I got a question for you, Seth.
Yes, sir.
What's your typical day look like?
That's a good question. It varies day to day and pretty much week to week, because whenever you have labs, sometimes your lab will be in a classroom, but sometimes it'll be, outside. So it depends on the class, but I'll just go a typical day first year. You're going to be there from 8 to 5, and it's not fun, because you're sitting in a classroom 8 to noon, you get 1 hour off for lunch, then you got to be back from 1 to 5. Normally in the afternoon is when your anatomy labs are. Those are 2 hours, and I believe you have 3 of those a week your first year. So first year, it's a lot, because it's pretty much like a full-time job. And after you get out of class, you're expected to go home and study, which I know in my personal experience, that wasn't very good for me, because sitting down all day for 8 or 9 hours and then going home and having to open a book is not what I wanted to do. But I had to, learn that the hard way, I guess, and kind of go through it. And it's hard to explain, because you can't really replicate that until you go through it, if that makes sense. So, but you're going to be there from 8 to 5. Normally classes are an hour long, and then it's a lecture. So, and then labs in the afternoon, like I said, and those are normally 2 hours.
So for you, do you study with others? Do you go back to vet school and study at the night?
Well, I have a lot of classmates that study at the vet school. For me, I can't. Once I'm out of class, I go home. I don't want to be there any longer than I have to, and that sounds bad, but I don't want to spend 16 hours at the vet school and then I just live at the vet school. So I have some classmates who do that, and that works for them. But for me, I got to go home, do something totally different, not even veterinary medicine related, and then come back to it. And it kind of helps you reset mentally, physically, sit down, get something to eat, feel a little bit better than just, keep trying to work through it. But I normally study with one other person. I can't study in a group. I get distracted. And so it's normally just me and the other person.
So if I'm following you correctly, from 8 to 5, you're at the vet school, and then you go home, you take a break, and then you go back to studying?
Yes, sir. Normally, whenever I get home around 5, I say College Station traffic's pretty rough. So if you beat the traffic, get home around 5:30, I'll go work out, and then I'll come back, make dinner, shower, maybe watch a little TV, depending on what exam's coming up too, because that really dictates for me for what and how I'm going to study for that week. Some classes I need to study a little bit more for. Some I could always study more, but if I feel that I got a good grasp of the material, I feel okay about it, I'm not going to study like I did for anatomy or physiology. So,
Do you have an exam every week?
for your first 2 years, you have exams Monday and Friday, and those will normally start week 4. So the biggest thing I learned is what I wish I would have known going in my first year is start studying day 1. Because in undergrad, I would start studying the week of the exam, and you can't do that in vet school. And I learned that the hard way, for sure. It was a humbling experience, but definitely start studying day 1. And it sounds like, well, what do I study? But the lectures, you go through so much material, and you don't even realize that how much you cover in one 50-minute lecture. So once that week 4 rolls around, you got exams Monday and Friday, then it's real easy to get behind the ball, because let's say you bomb Monday exam, then you gotta get it back together, try to gear up for Friday, and then it's just for the next 14 weeks, you're 2 exams a week.
I know the studying habits, when I was an undergrad, the same way, right? It's just the week before or a couple days before.
Right.
And I learned the hard lesson, when I was rolling through my PhD, you have to be studying pretty much every day.
Every day.
If you're wanting to know the material, because you kind of need to.
Right.
Every day is studying.
Right, you can't just memorize it. You got to be able to.
Yeah. So what time do you shut down at night?
At 9, I normally go to bed, or try to, at least 9:30 to 10. I know and again, this is just my schedule. It's not the schedule, the way to do it, but this is just what works for me. Normally try to be in bed by 9:30 to 10, and because I like to sleep. I'd rather get a good night's sleep than stay up till 1 o'clock and try to, maybe score 5 points higher on an exam. That doesn't mean anything to me.
And then you get up what time in the morning?
It depends. If I have an exam that day, I'll wake up at 5:30, go for a little run, eat breakfast, come back, shower, study for by that time it'll be about 7 o'clock. Study from 7 to 7:20. It takes me about 5 minutes to get to the vet school. Get to the vet school at 7:25, 7:30. Then I go to the exam room, and I'll sit there for the first, or 7:45 to 8, which is when the exam starts, and just look over my notes, not get too, trying to cram, but just, look back through it and just try to give it your best, I guess.
And then how much time do you have for an exam? Depends on the exam, or?
Yes, sir. For most exams, you'll have an hour. For anatomy, I want to say you had an hour and a half for the written and an hour for the practical, because the practical is all timed, and you'll be in there with about 80 students, and they'll have 80 tables laid out with all sorts of things tied and labeled, and so they'll have you on a timer, and it's a minute timer, so you got a minute for each station. They'll give you, I think, 5 minutes at the very end if you want to go back and look at anything else and do that. So it's a little bit different, but normally about an hour for each exam.
We can move on to another question one of the students had. And I think this one is important, because I think there's a lot of ways that students can excel in their application. And the question is it more important to focus on how many hours you work with animals, or the type of work? And I'm assuming this is in the application process, like them getting the hours before they apply.
Right. And I actually talked to my dad about this question, because I thought it was a good question. And some people will think that working for a vet, which is great, like working for one vet for 5 years and you get all this experience, but it's at this one place. And when you go to fill out your application, that's the only thing you can put for experience is I worked at XYZ for 5 years. And not that that's bad, that's great. You learned a bunch and everything, but I think we both agreed that it would be better on an application standpoint, and it would benefit you because you can see how different veterinarians practice and see how they do things. And also, one vet may just be a small animal vet, one may be mixed, large, whatever it is. So I think working for 10 vets for 100 hours is better than working for one vet for 1,000 hours, whatever it is. So it'll look better on the application, and it'll help you.
Now, for the listeners,
Yeah, full transparency here.
yeah, who's your dad?
My dad is Poncho Hubert. He's a veterinarian in Calallen.
Okay, so you're a son of a veterinarian.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And Seth's grandfather was also a veterinarian.
Yes, sir.
So no pressure.
Oh, no pressure. Yeah, I didn't want to be the first one to flunk out A&M vet school. So I think that's a good incentive, but
So, with that, one of the questions was also, let me flip to it and get to it so I'm not speaking out of turn.
Let me dovetail off that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good. So I know that you've done a lot of experiential learning before, and you continue to do that now.
yes, sir.
The experience you got as an undergrad, did that help you the first year of vet school?
For
Working with animals.
Oh, working with animals. Absolutely. Like Dr. Garcia's, I think it was her 2310 course. That helped me because I never really worked with goats, honestly. I mean, we have goats now. Didn't really know anything about them, though. But I think, the animal experience that y'all give here, is that the question? Or is that where you...
That and the animal experience that you got through your family and through your own efforts.
Oh, okay. No, absolutely. That definitely...
Job shadowing or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Did that help you in your first year of vet school?
The stuff I did shadowing that wasn't... I would say that there was stuff that helped me, stuff that I was just there to be there and get hours and to say I put on a paper. And that sounds bad, but it's what you need to do. But the thing that helped me the most was if I'd be with my dad and we were putting in a prolapse or anything like that, being able to ask him questions, that helped me the most because I could go back and look on it. And he's not afraid to hurt my feelings. So, if I say something or if I have a question for him, he'll be more than happy to explain it to me. But, he's not afraid to give it to me straight. So, and that's the way I'd rather, just be straight up with me, tell me how it is. And I'm able to draw on those experiences the most, but they definitely help me.
And we've been talking, Stanko and Garcia and myself, we've been talking, and they shared with me that even when you're in vet school, you're also going and doing spays and neuters for
Yes, sir.
volunteering just to get the experiences.
Yes,
Do you
sir.
recommend that for the students once they get into vet school?
I would think if you can find a place that lets you do that, absolutely, 100%. Because this past summer was great for me. I was able to go to an animal shelter 2 days a week in Corpus with Dr. Draper. She let me spay, neuter cats and dogs for pretty much the first week after finals in May till last week. So I'm done there for now, but I'm going to go back over Christmas. And it was a great get to practice your tissue handling, sutures, pretty much everything, just because they're real nitpicky about it, and rightfully so. But aseptic technique, everything. So.
And that was 100% volunteer, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All volunteer. You can find some paid stuff, but, I think it's not make or break for me. So.
Yeah, so as you're moving along in your career, initiative is important.
Yes, sir. Trying to go.
You want to make sure that you're doing your best, and one of those is volunteering. And you can hopefully find a place that pays you, but if not, you still need to improve on your skills, and volunteering is important.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So kind of dovetailing into that, right, a little bit, is that we kind of been taptoeing around it a little bit. What advice could you give to an incoming student that could have helped you in the beginning?
So I kind of touched on it a little while ago, but start studying day one. First day of class, it seems like you don't go over a lot, but start studying day one. We talked about Monday, Friday exams, but one thing I wanted to touch on is there will come a time when you struggle, at least for me, and you think you can do it on your own, and it's kind of arrogant to say that, and I was the same way, and I'm not afraid to say that. I thought I could, don't need help, but don't be afraid to ask for help. Ask professors, ask classmates. There's resources there for you, and have something you enjoy outside of vet school that doesn't pertain to veterinary medicine. That's great that you love vet medicine, but you will get to a point, if all you do is vet medicine, you will get sick of it. So have something that you can do, get away, and just, kind of reset a little bit.
With that, have something to get away. That was advice that I was given when I was pursuing to be a veterinarian at Colorado State University. One of the vet school professors, came and talked to our pre-vet club and made the comment, you need to take at least an hour out of your day every day to do something for yourself. So you don't get burnt out with that. So
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's pretty important.
We were also made aware that you missed a week of school or more.
I did.
Of school or more. Well, first year or second year?
This was first year.
Okay. Tell us about that experience.
So this was the 4th week of vet school. Our first anatomy exam was that Friday. Tuesday morning, I felt like I had a stomach ache. And, it kept bugging me. I chugged about half a bottle of Pepto-Bismol thinking it would help. And later that night, I just kept waking up in the middle of the night, cold sweats, shivering, just a full 9. So I hopped in my truck the next morning, went to the doctor. They did, and I think it was an MRI, and found out I had an appendicitis. So I had to get my appendix taken out. That was a Wednesday morning I got that taken out. And so I emailed my professor, said, hey, I got to get surgery, won't be able to make it to the exam Friday. He said, that's fine. But in vet school, it's not like undergrad where, you go into their office and retake an exam. So what I had to do is right before finals week, my first year in the fall, I had to take a retake exam or a makeup exam for exam 1. And what that is a cumulative exam with you and the anatomy professor, and you have a dog sitting in front of you, and he has a little, stylus that he's pointing at different things saying, what is this? What is this? And you got to be able to rattle them off. And it's intimidating. I'll be the first one to admit that, because they know a lot more than you do, and it'll probably always be like that. But, it wasn't easy, and I think he gave me a little bit of slack, but definitely not much. I know that. I would have rather taken the first exam for sure. And
so they were accommodating to you? I mean, they didn't think you were telling them a tall tale, or they knew you're serious. You had a serious problem, and they dealt with it, but it was a challenge.
Right. They were accommodating in a sense that they understood that if I missed class, that's fine. I was in surgery, but I didn't know at the time how far it was going to set me back, because I missed 3 straight days of class. And missing a week of vet school is like missing a month of undergrad probably. And because you go through so much material so quick, and by the time I was back that Monday morning, I didn't know where we were at. And so part of it's on me though, because I could have gone back and rewatched the lectures and done something each day while I was, recovering or whatever. But they're accommodated in that sense, but they don't make special exceptions like, oh, well, you can come in here and retake. Not
like that at all.
No. It's,
But you made it. You survived. You're in your 3rd year of vet school right now.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Sometimes I'll be sitting in class thinking my application got stuck to the back of someone else's, and they're just about to walk in here and say, hey, you're not supposed to be here. But
it doesn't matter as long as you get into a vet school. And
absolutely,
a lot of times it doesn't really matter what vet school it is, because they're preparing you to ultimately to become a sort of a veterinarian. You have to pass the boards. Right?
Yes, sir.
Right.
And that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah. Not necessarily the path how you get there. It's more along the lines, are you prepared to take the boards?
Right. It doesn't got to be pretty. I know that.
Exactly. It does not have to be pretty.
No, sir.
So we're getting close to the end of our time here. Is there any lasting things that you want to leave the students with?
And, have fun. Enjoy. If this is a first year, about to be a first year going in, enjoy your last week. And it'll all work out, I promise. Just keep at it.
Wonderful. Well, we greatly appreciate you taking the time, Seth. And with that said, we also want to thank Dr. Alberto Rodriguez for allowing us to have this wonderful setup and to help us share the experiences with the students here that are currently at TAMUK. So thanks again, Seth.
Yes, sir. Thanks, y'all,
Seth.
for having me.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
And I think that's a wrap. So take care, everyone.